Hello, folks, and welcome back again. Bear Clan Hiking Podcast Series, talking episode 5. A major question asked by a lot of people is, which trail is my favorite? Ultimately, folks, it's probably the hardest question to answer because there's never going to be one answer for it. I have a top 10, a top 5, a top 20, but which one is my favorite? I can't really answer that because everything depends on how I feel the morning I depart. Whenever I'm going to hike, it's all about what I feel like that day. If I wake up and I feel like kicking my butt, I have a few hikes that I'll do. If I wake up and say, you know what, I'd just like to do a casual walk, do some meditation, maybe sink my toes in the water. So everything depends on how I'm feeling that day. I don't hike the same hike every day or every week or every month. We have over 180 trails in Sedona, so that means I get to hike different hikes every time I hike. So I'd have to be hiking, 3 hikes a week in order to cover all the trails? I don't get that luxury at this point, but someday maybe I will. So which one hike is my favorite? Can't answer you. But I do have a top 5 of trails and the reasons why I hike. Now, first and foremost, folks, if you listen to my podcast prior to this, you might have heard that there's several different terrains here in Sedona, which require several different hiking skills. So knowing what the hiking terrain is and the skill set that I have, I've been hiking Sedona for over a decade, and I've been hiking all my life. So for me, these trails that I'm going to mention in my top 5 are trails that I do and I can easily do. So it doesn't mean that everybody, just because I'm saying it, oh wow, Bear said to hike this, Bear said to hike that. Folks, just like the previous podcast, you better know what you're getting yourself into. People tell folks to go up certain hikes and they have no idea what the terrain is, and people bite off more than they can chew, which can tend to mean that they're going to be airlifted out or search and rescue teamed out or just carried on a stretcher or something. It's that difficult of an area to be able to hike if you're not doing your research. So I'm just going to give you a quick list of the top 5 hikes for me and the essential reasons why I do it. First and foremost, folks, we have a nice, incredible mountain called Bear Mountain. You can do all the equating you want. The truth is that, yes, I do have a connection with Bear Mountain. Being Bear and Bear Mountain, you can kind of see that. So ultimately, this would have been on the list regardless. There's just something different about Bear Mountain for me. My first week ever hiking in Sedona, I stumbled across Bear Mountain and I knew immediately that that was a destination that I had to do. I didn't realize just how difficult the hike was at the time, so I had to piece it together. The good thing was I found somebody that hiked it a lot on my way up the mountain, and I just hiked with them. So when I got up to the summit, it was insanely perfect. The views going up Bear Mountain are phenomenal. There's like several levels to Bear Mountain to get to the top. There are 4 false peaks to get you to the summit of Bear Mountain. Real simple, a false peak is something that leads you to believe you're at the top, only to find out that you still have a lot more to go. So you get 4 of those moments of, ooh, I think we're making it to the top. And when you get up to the top of what you see, you've got more to go. So it's pretty intimidating from the emotional standpoint. The difficulty, I would consider this one of the harder hikes in Sedona because it's a Stairmaster challenge. You're going up and down some pretty intense angles. And ultimately, you're getting up to around 6,800 feet of elevation, so you might have some thin air issues for those of you that don't hike here a lot. But spiritually, folks, this is probably one of my top 2 places to go in Sedona when I'm looking to do some serious meditation. Next one on the list would be Wilson Mountain. I call Wilson Mountain the granddaddy of Sedona's hikes. And the reason is because there is no higher elevation gain than Wilson Mountain in Sedona. It's over 2,450 feet of elevation gain. The views on top are ridiculous and the best in Sedona. You will get to the edge of it and it'll almost feel like you're at the Grand Canyon when you're up on top of Wilson Mountain. It's insanely quiet. Not because there's nobody hiking it, but because you're so far up and it's a mountain that not a lot of animals are going to be visiting. You'll get a lot of bird activity. You might get some elk and some deer, but that's pretty much it. It tends to be a day hike for most folks. So there's 2 access points to get up to Wilson Mountain. Wilson Mountain Trail, which is 5.5 miles, all uphill, all one way. Or Wilson North, which is about 3.5 miles, but it's just more aggressive and more steep, and the switchbacks are very tight. So essentially, if you're thinking about doing Wilson Mountain, just plan on it being your day hike. And for me, the edge of Wilson Mountain is probably the most superb moments of sitting down and observing and allowing things to soak in. It can really give you a clear understanding of just how insignificant we humans really are on this planet. The next hike on my list is going to be A.B. Young. Folks, when I wake up in the morning and I say, you know what, I could really use a butt whooping, A.B. Young is going to be that. A.B. Young has the highest summit in Sedona. Wilson Mountain summit is about 7,122 feet, but when you're at the vista viewing, you're not that high. In order to find the summit of Wilson Mountain, you're not going to the vista, but it's still impressive. However, A.B. Young is about 7,180 feet, and if you get to the fire tower, you're looking at almost 7,200. So, the highest elevation and the steepest climb. It's essentially harder than the Empire State Building stairs. You're going just around 2,000 feet straight up, and the Empire State Building itself is only around 1,400 feet. So if you've never climbed the Empire State Building and have no desire for it, I would say A.B. Young is probably not going to be suited for you. The insane views of Oak Creek is ridiculous. It is the most incredible sense of accomplishment when you go up A.B. Young. It is by far the hardest straight up hike because it is tight switchbacks. There's something like 36 switchback turns to get up to the top. And one of the big bonuses, super quiet, because there's not that many people that want that kind of challenge. So when people come into Sedona, not a lot of you are going to go up to A.B. Young. If you are not cardio conditioned, definitely don't put that on your list. Next one of my favorites is going to be Munns Mountain. Now for me, I don't drive a lot to cut off some of the time on hikes. Munns Mountain is one of those. I park at Munns Wagon Trail, also known as the Schnebly Hill Road parking area, and I hike the 3+ miles to get to essentially the gate that brings you to the starting of Schnebly Trail, which then connects to Munns Mountain Trail. So you're essentially doing 3 trails to get to the summit of Munns Mountain. The cool thing is that it's pretty much identical to Wilson Mountain, but across the way. Instead of being on the west side of Sedona, it's on the east side. And you get a little bit of a different view and a different perspective up there. So the vista views when you get up on top of Munns Mountain is just ridiculously cool. The terrain changes is what really excites me. So you're going down into the depths of the canyon. You're going through some ups and downs, switchbacks, tights, scampering through. You get some gorgeous little pockets of incredible views, and you're watching the entire canyon go by you. Then you get to go above the canyon, looking back down the canyon into the city while you're just getting ready to go up to Munns Mountain. So it's an impressive start to finish, intense hike, but well worth it when you get to the summit and you can explore the south end of Sedona as well as the central part of Sedona from the views up atop. The next one and the last one on my top 5 list is Hot Loop. This one is something that you have to watch out for seasonal hiking. Hot Loop is called Hot Loop because if you try and hike it in the summer, essentially flat terrain in the wide open sun, Hot Loop is insanely hot during the summer. I would not recommend it to anybody that is not well versed in difficult terrain hiking. It's not super high, although from bottom to the top, as you meander through the long trail, you're going to get about 2,200 feet or so of elevation. So it does go up, but overall it's a steady increase. Hard terrain. There is a section or several sections on Hot Loop that as you're walking, you may not see the rocks that you're going to be stepping on, and you could quite easily twist your ankle, if not do more damage. By being very cautious, you can do this trail. The part that really kicks butt about it is if you go from start to finish, you're going to cover 12.6 miles one way. And I don't know what kind of a hiker you are, 12.6 miles is an incredibly good day for me. If I can do one trail for one day, 12.6 miles, that's the one I take. Difficult, but incredibly peaceful because it's so difficult. And because it's so long, not a lot of people are going to go do the whole trail. And I easily recommend it for just maybe the first third of that trail or a first quarter of it. You know, give yourself maybe 4 miles of Hot Loop and then come back. That's 8 miles round trip. Let's see, if you go from one end of Hot Loop to the other, you better have somebody on the other end to pick you up, or you better be planning on doing it overnight, because you are not going to be walking 25 miles in one day unless you are a ridiculously fast hiker. And again, I said at the beginning, the terrain on Hot Loop can be so dangerous that if you're hiking fast, you may fall into something that's not comfortable. And you could end up getting helicoptered out. So there you go, folks. That's my top 5 list. I'm sure as other people in town have hiked for many years, even more than I have. We have locals that have been here for 30, 40, 50 years, and their choice of hikes are much different than mine. But ultimately, just like I've said in other podcasts, it's all about who you talk to, who you ask, and the reasons behind why something is their favorite. I could have a day where I have more fun walking on a flat road than going up one of the mountains. Does that mean I would put that as my favorite? No, it's just that day works out well for me with that kind of a hike. How do you feel about what you hike when you hike it? What are your emotions going into it? And then what are the options that you have? So in Sedona, we have, like I say, over 180 trails. Learn about them, find out the terrain, find out the skill set required, and find out your skill set and your desires. Match it up and make it the safest possible hike you can do. You will not be dissatisfied with any trail here in Sedona. Every single trail has some sort of incredibly gorgeous, wonderful, different hiking experiences. So there's never going to be a shortage for that. So thank you very much, folks. Bless you. I hope everything works out for you wonderfully while you're in Sedona, and enjoy the red rocks. And we love you, and stay tuned to the next podcast.